Hello, everyone. My name's Steve Beswick. I'm the Business Development Director for Microsoft in Europe. And I'm just going to give you a short presentation on digital transformation in education and specifically about Surface devices in the education marketplace. So the agenda, I'm just going to give you a little bit of context around Microsoft in education and what we do, and also look at it in the wider context of economies, why it's important that we invest in education. Secondly, I'm going to spend the majority of the time of explaining why the device is important and why it's important in education. And then finally, I'm just going to go very summary looking at the Surface family. Okay, to start off with, this is Microsoft's mission statement: empowering every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more, clearly through technology, cloud, hardware, software. This is our mission statement. And when we put that in an education context, what we're trying to do here is empower every student and every teacher and every school, college, university on the planet to achieve more. Now, achieving more is up to the school or college. It might be achieving better results. It might be, people coming to school. We're working with schools where, because of IT, the kids come to school as opposed to maybe doing drugs. So the context around what achieving more is very much up to the individual education establishment. Okay, so the way we position this is when you look at the left-hand side of this slide, this is basically the categories of all of our products. So, Office, Windows, Azure, Office 365, we categorize them into these four areas. And so we're spending about $18 billion a year of R&D on our products. And essentially what we're trying to do here is align those to a digital transformation framework for a school, a college, or a university. And what we're trying to do here is using technology and all of that R&D to empower teachers, to engage students, to optimize the way the school or the university is run using software. And as a result of all of this is to transform learning. And what I say to customers around Surface specifically is if you deeply want to transform the learning in your organization, then you should consider Surface as an option. If you don't want to transform and you want to stay doing what you're doing, then maybe Surface isn't the tool for you, because Surface is a transformational product. What we found with this framework, it's a great way of aligning what people can do. And empowering teachers is not just about what's going on in the classroom, it's how a teacher works during the day. And as we all know, teachers have to do a lot of other things apart from teach. And so what we found, certainly in comparison to other vendors out there who focus specifically on the classroom, what we do is specifically look at the classroom, but also how does a teacher work outside the classroom, the productivity tools that they can use, et cetera, et cetera. So we think that's a key differentiator for us. This slide is more around how that works in reality. And this is a PowerPoint showing that once you've got this working, you can gather a lot of data on how the school is run, how the university is run, pupil information about what's actually happening. You're capturing a lot of data through a cloud-based environment. And then you can use that data to collect insights and then make decisions using data and AI. Now, this might be something in the future, but at the same time, this is the use of AI technology in a school environment by collecting lots of data and predicting, if you like, what might happen in the future based on the data that's there. Okay, so that's a little bit of the background. If you look at the workplace context outside of education, these are slides that we've done from Microsoft Surface on the way that the workplace is changing. What is expected from an employer in terms of, looking at certain skill sets like creativity and collaboration. They're really important skills to have to get a job. And a lot of these skills are developed and can be developed further using technology and specifically for Surface. So we like to drive creativity and collaboration through using Surface devices and Microsoft tools. And if you like, using that technology to work anywhere. clearly that with the pandemic, it's changed a lot of the requirements of employers, and they're looking for people to work on their own, work together, using technology massively. And so therefore, we think Surface can help with that in a school or university environment to get people ready for the workplace. And I suppose modern work requires modern devices, and I suppose modern education also requires modern devices. There's a lot of alternatives out there. There's a lot of choice out there, but as again, if you want to transform your education, then we really think Surface is an option you should consider. We've got lots of schools and universities now where indeed they're investing in their infrastructure with Surface and using that as a way to attract and retain talent. So if you want the best outcomes in terms of learning outcomes, which is what we're trying to drive with the school or university, then you need to be able to attract and retain talent. You need the best teachers, you need the best professors, and if they've got a great IT environment where they can use it to save time and be more productive, you're going to be able to attract people. We have one school where they're using Surface, and the teachers tell me it saves them an hour a day, right, in terms of productivity, the way they mark, etc. So to that end, we shouldn't not just be looking at the learning outcomes, which is clearly important through the device and through the infrastructure, but actually looking at the teacher as well and how to make them more productive, not to work harder, but to make their life easier so that they can spend more time in the classroom maybe, or go home and have leisure time with their family. So that's the context. So very quickly, I'm going to give you 7 reasons why the device is important. The first one I'm putting is cost saving. Now, I think a lot of you that know Surface will realize we're a premium product, but you've got to look at the whole cost of the device over a period of time. And for those of you that don't know, this is the Microsoft campus in Reading. As you can see here, there's 5 big buildings, and just below the title, you can see there's a car park there with a lot of other space. That's our land ready for building 6. During the pandemic, we've actually hired a lot of people. We're growing massively. You've got about 4,500 people in here. The reality is, though, our working practices before the pandemic were such that we don't need building 6. And in fact, we've now made the decision pre-pandemic, not because of the pandemic, but pre-pandemic, we're actually closing 2 of these buildings down. The point of this is if you have great IT and you have great working practices, you don't necessarily need the space. Now, we're not an education organization. And maybe this is not relevant for the schools market, but I think in the context of universities, do they really need all the space that they have? Could they use technology in a much, much better way to save a ton of money, if you like, in the context of putting the right infrastructure in place? This is another one. This is it's kind of a bit of fun. What's in your bag? I speak to teachers, head teachers, professors. Happens to be a briefcase, could be anything. All right. But when you see what's in a teacher's suitcase or briefcase, sorry, or handbag, it's like, well, some people have a couple of phones, one for work, one for home. They've probably got a tablet of some sort. They've probably got a laptop, which is probably old. They've probably got a lot of paper and a lot of marking to do and a lot of cables. And you've got to look at that in the context of how is that managed and how is it protected in the context of security. Now, what we say in Microsoft is that all that can be replaced with one Surface device, which can act as both a tablet. We've actually got customers replacing desktops with Surface. So it's a tablet, it's a desktop, it's a laptop. And in fact, I've got a customer that says it's a 4-in-1 device because it does all those 3 things. And it also replaces pen and paper. So a 4-in-1 device. Put that together with a phone and you can tether, you can work anywhere. These are the things that you need. I've got one professor in the university that had 6 devices, okay? Laptops for research, laptops for teaching and learning. He replaced it with 1. And so look at the cost savings by doing that. We've got all this in a research paper, and I'll provide a link at the end where you can get to this. But as you can see here, a summary of that report that we've done in conjunction with a third party, you can see the cost savings associated with a Surface environment here. Okay, second reason, why is the device important? Well, the technology in the classroom should be there to drive the learning outcome. Okay, how can we improve learning? And you can see here, this is quite a well-known model in education circles. And if you follow this model, you can see how, technology historically has just been there to substitute what's already happening. Okay, now is that going to aid better learning? Probably not. Whereas what we're trying to do is drive it down to the bottom right and using technology to modify the curriculum and redefine it and learn in a very, very different way. So Surface is a product that helps drive towards that active learning environment rather than just learning through transmission. We've done some studies in Australia with one of our schools, and you can see here how, you know, we're absolutely transforming education in the context of how can you use technology to provide better feedback? How can you use it to provide better discussion and questioning and that collaboration, rather than just the teacher at the front telling people what to do and telling them what to learn. And so this is important in terms of learning and learning outcomes. This next bit is basically around, you know, work that's been done not by Microsoft but by researchers in the context of what is important to the interface to learning and how do people digest information. And this data on this slide is showing that actually writing things down and ideating, you know, in terms of using pen is really important. Now, a lot of people with Surface now are using the pen to do that. You could say going from, you know, pen and paper, where you're using a pen already, to a laptop where you're just using a keyboard. According to the research, you could say that the learning is actually impeded by that. And so what we're saying with Surface, with the pen, you've got a great electronic pen there to mark, to ideate, to collaborate, to create. And so obviously that's important as well in terms of the learning outcome. So that's the second reason. The third reason is all about security. Now, this is really important in the university marketplace and schools, but specifically it's resonating with universities. Universities are getting hacked all the time, or people are trying to hack them, research data, etc. And this data on this slide shows how, by combining Microsoft 365 and Surface, you can save money and reduce the issues that you may have around security. You can see the data here, it's independently verified by Forrester, but as you can see here, some pretty big gains around making yourself more secure as an organization, and at the same time saving cost as well. So again, you could put this in the saving cost category as well as just improving security. The next one is then about deployment and management, and the technologies that we have in this area are Intune and Autopilot. We build our technology in China with a very clean Windows image, ready to be used in an Intune environment, and using Autopilot to build the machine using the Azure service. Now, when you look at this, we've got customers out there and we've got written up case studies where the students or the teacher take the device out of the box, and within 10 minutes, the machine is built, you know, through a cloud-based environment, through using Autopilot. Something to really bear in mind in terms of huge savings to the IT department in terms of deployment, as well as then having a great environment to manage the device as well. And because we build our product for Autopilot, it is the cleanest image that I think you'll find out there in the marketplace. We don't add anything on there, any bloatware to get in the way of that very clean service that we provide. The next one is integration. So when you look at it, there's a lot of customers out there, universities, schools, colleges, using Microsoft 365, and bringing those two environments together with Surface is really important in terms of that. And when you look at this slide, you know, most of you will know we have, you know, 3 cloud products. Generically, we have Microsoft Dynamics, Microsoft Azure, and the one a lot of people are using at the moment in education is Microsoft 365 with Teams. But with Dynamics, you know, we've got customers using, you know, how do you use the Dynamics product for student life cycle? How do you do it to follow and helping students as they progress from visiting the university to joining the university to leaving the university, and that whole journey using Microsoft Dynamics and using Power Apps now, which is an area that's really growing in that Dynamics area. With Azure, there's a lot of schools, universities using that now, in the context of the autopilot service that I mentioned already, and using lots and lots of other areas of Azure as well, Azure Active Directory, so on and so forth. And then finally, the one I think that a lot of people know is Microsoft 365 Teams, but using workflows, using forms-based systems as well, using our cloud. Now, when you look at those three clouds, we like to position Surface in the middle as the way that you present all of that data and all that information that you've invested in across all those three clouds. And if you're going to invest in all of those areas, we think you need a quality device to be able to view that on, manipulate data in that cloud environment, and making sure it's very integrated with those cloud environments. The next one is sustainability. Now, this is an area that's of increasing importance, and I haven't got time to go into this, but there's lots of information online. But essentially, even when you look at some of our products today, everybody is focused on the use of electricity. When we've looked at it, the electricity consumed by a device over a 3-year period probably represents about 15% of the carbon footprint. And so you need to look at organizations that are really serious about this, not just in terms of electricity consumption, but more importantly, how we get the products that build the products that we've got. So the battery, the metal, how do we resource the products? Where do we get them from? Reducing hazardous materials clearly in the device itself. How do we extend the life? How do we recycle the device as well? And so you can see from here, we take this very seriously. This happens to be the laptop 3. 91% of it is recyclable. That's a huge area and a huge focus for us as a company, and something that customers should take into account in schools and universities to reduce the carbon footprint. And then actually the final thing is the product itself. I mean, I have gone through 6 reasons and I haven't really mentioned too much about the product, but look, the product is pretty compelling. Here is a Surface Pro 7. It's the 2-in-1 or the 4-in-1 that I referred to before. There's got some great features in there for you to look at very closely. First of all, charging. Battery life's important, but actually so is the ability for it to charge really quickly. And you can see here, we can go from 5% to 80% in an hour. So charging really quickly. Really important in between lessons, at the beginning of the day, if somebody's forgotten to charge up, you can get to lunchtime maybe with fast charging. The kickstand, you can see, it really transforms that from a tablet to a laptop or a studio. You can lean on it and write on it at a 30-degree angle when it goes all the way down to the bottom. The fact that we've got the removable SSD now in the new Pro 7 improves repairability, improves security as well. And then we place a lot of emphasis on the screen technology and the sound system to really, really make sure you've got the most compelling environment for that collaboration in a school over long distances, to make sure people feel as though they're in class, even though they may be at home. So huge amount of investment from us on the actual product itself. And when you look at the product, we've got, a lot of products out there. From the 8 years where we first introduced the first Surface device, we've expanded the family to the extent now where we have customers actually, what I would say, are standardizing on us. They can choose a laptop, they can choose a 2-in-1, they can choose small, big, less expensive, more powerful, and everything in between. And so we've come a long way in that time. And so when we're competing against our competitors in this area, people don't have to compromise. They could, if they wanted to, standardize with all the different products that we've got. And, I'm not going to go through all of this. You can see this online, the type of products that we've got, but we're deeply committed to Surface, and Surface obviously in education as well. To bring it all together, Microsoft 365 is the engine, the cloud-based environment that powers everything connecting to the Surface. Surface helps you unlock that creativity, drives collaboration. It's built for team working in terms of the software and the hardware, bringing it together. We're trying to integrate everything as much as we can with the hardware and the software to make it as simple as possible, and for the technology to almost go into the background so you don't have to think too much about where you're plugging in and what drivers have you got and all the kind of issues that a lot of schools have today. And in fact, I've got a school in the UK that I spoke to yesterday where a 40-minute lesson they were only getting 55% of that lesson as actual learning time because of things weren't working, technology wasn't working, whatever, only 55%. And when they went to Surface as a standard product, so everything was the same, whichever classroom they went into, it went up to 97%. So another good anecdote there in terms of productivity and cost. And of course, the really important one as well is security around this. It's hugely important. Bringing those two environments together, we think, is really important as well. So that's it. Thank you for listening. Hopefully that helps you. If you want to get more resources, please go to this site, which is purely specifically on Surface in education. There's lots of other areas you can go to where you might want to look up, i7, i5, i3. You won't find that on this site. There's plenty of other sites, but this has got lots of material, case study material, videos of what customers are doing. So thank you for your time. Hopefully that's useful, and hope to see you soon. Bye.